Even after copping a plea, Boosie just got slammed with a firearm possession sentence, and this time it feels like the walls are closing in for real. But here's the twist. What shook everybody wasn't even the length of the sentence. Boosie himself is claiming he's being straight up framed by the system, saying this whole setup was designed to bury him deeper than ever before.
The fact that I was sentenced to third offense marijuana, 10 years? I was sentenced to 10 years. The system been let me down.
Some folks are saying this all connects back to when Boosie beat that death row case, like the system been waiting for a chance to strike back ever since. Let me break it down. This is what happens when keeping it real takes a dangerous turn. The streets can't believe it. The hood is stunned, and hip-hop just watched one of its raw soldiers get dragged back into the fire. Torrance Ivy Hatch Jr., the world knows him as Boosie Badazz, just copped a plea that could mean waving goodbye to the rap game forever.
It's just a plea that I'm doing on August 26th.
But real talk, to understand how we got here, you gotta rewind to where it all began. The gritty streets of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where young Torrance first grabbed the mic and spit bars about survival. From day one, Boosie's legal life was tied up with courtroom drama, run-ins with cops, and a record that came back to haunt him harder than he ever pictured. The stage for all this madness was set back in 2008, when what should have been a regular day in the hood turned into the start of a nightmare. On October 22, 2008, Baton Rouge deputies popped Boosie after finding weed and a Glock in his ride. Now, street cats know getting caught with bud and heat ain't rare, but this was his third marijuana strike, and that's exactly what let the system set him up for a harsher fall.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you been fighting this thing from the very, very beginning?
I've been fighting for probably 3 years now, probably.
3 years.
The young rapper, just starting to catch fire in the dirty South hip-hop scene, suddenly got trapped in the prison pipeline that's been swallowing black men for decades. Boosie pled guilty to his third marijuana possession charge on September 22, 2009, thinking maybe he could ride it out. But what came next looked like straight-up courtroom trickery. Judge Chip Moore first handed him a 2-year sentence, but once it came out that Boosie had violated house arrest between the plea and the sentencing, the judge snapped back and doubled it to 4 years on November 9, 2009.
Now, it was a state case. The feds came, picked it up. They had a ruling in the Supreme Court that went in my favor, and the case got dropped by the judge. The case got dropped.
But the system wasn't finished trying to crush this young black man from the projects. Even while he was already locked up, they stacked on more charges, making sure he'd be stuck behind bars for nearly a decade. In 2011, still sitting in a cell, Boosie got slapped with new drug charges for allegedly trying to sneak contraband into prison. He pled guilty, and just like that, his time stretched to 8 years. The rising star who had the streets buzzing and the rap game watching now faced nearly 10 years locked away from his career and his fans.
The fact that I was sentenced to third offense marijuana, 10 years? I was sentenced to 10 years. The system been let me down.
But the heaviest blow was still on the way, what turned into one of the most infamous murder trials in Louisiana's recent history. On June 17, 2010, Boosie got indicted for the first-degree murder of Terry Boyd, who had been gunned down the year before. Prosecutors tried to paint Boosie as the mastermind, claiming he ordered Michael Marlo Mike Loud to handle the dirty work in a supposed murder-for-hire beef over street territory. The stakes couldn't have been higher. If the jury bought that story, Boosie wasn't just facing years, he was staring straight at the death penalty.
I was sentenced to 10 for third offense marijuana.
Yeah.
How you know if I'm drug addict if you never send me to rehab? I was sent straight to the pen. How am I, you know if I'm a drug addict if you never offered me rehab?
The prosecutors tried to make Boosie look like a cold-blooded killer, even suggesting he was tied to 5 other bodies. Though they never had enough evidence to charge him with those, the trial turned into a circus, with the state dragging in everything from his phone calls to his lyrics. Songs like 187 Inches and Body Bag, recorded around the time Terry Boyd was killed, were picked apart line by line in the courtroom, with prosecutors arguing those bars weren't just rhymes but confessions. On June 28, 2010, Boosie stood in a Louisiana courtroom and entered a not guilty plea. His defense squad went on attack mode, tearing into the prosecution's shaky case. Most of it leaned on the word of Michael Marlo Mike Loud, whose testimony was so inconsistent it wobbled like a trap house ready to collapse. His lawyers were so confident the prosecutors had nothing solid. They didn't even bother calling witnesses. They simply rested their case, daring the jury to see through the smoke. The tension in that Louisiana courtroom was thicker than blunt smoke as 12 jurors debated whether one of the South's brightest rap stars would walk free or face death row. The entire hip-hop world was on edge, knowing that a guilty verdict would end not just Boosie's career, but possibly his life. Then came May 11, 2012. After less than 10 minutes of deliberation, the jury acquitted Boosie of murder. That lightning-fast decision showed what plenty already knew. The prosecution's case was weaker than watered-down liquor. Still, the damage was done. Years of Boosie's prime had already been stolen by the system. Even though he beat the murder charge, he remained locked up on the drug case. He finally touched freedom on March 5, 2014, after serving 5 years of an 8-year sentence, likely shortened for good behavior and legal maneuvering. But that bid left him changed. The wild, reckless rapper who went in came out hardened, with a whole new understanding of how the game really worked. On parole until 2018, he was still under the system's thumb with restrictions and constant eyes on him. Yet Boosie didn't fold. He came back hungrier. He jumped into music like his life depended on it, dropping project after project and winning back fans. His comeback story became legendary, but those old convictions stayed chained to his name. As a felon, federal law kept him from carrying guns, and that shadow followed him everywhere. That same script replayed in 2019 when he was pulled over in Noonan, Georgia. A white Dodge Charger swerved on the road, nearly sideswiping another car. Deputies moved in, smelled loud in the car, searched it, and found both weed and a loaded strap. It was deja vu all over again. But the biggest storm came on May 6, 2023, in San Diego, California. What should have been a regular business trip, shooting a video and performing at a club in the Gaslamp Quarter, turned into his darkest legal nightmare since beating the murder rap. This time, social media and federal surveillance collided to bring him down. As the sun set over San Diego's Choice View neighborhood, Boosie was doing what he always did, keeping it real for his fans. According to court filings, San Diego police were already watching a known Crip affiliate's Instagram live when they spotted Boosie in the stream with a black handgun tucked into his waistband. What was second nature to Boosie, sharing his life online, handed the feds the ammunition they needed for a full-scale operation. Authorities rolled out heavy. They had an airborne unit, choppers in the sky, multiple ground teams, and coordinated surveillance, all for a rapper who came to make money and rock a show. The bust unfolded fast. Cops tracked him to a black SUV, made the stop, and inside they found 2 loaded guns, a Glock and a Hellcat, along with Boosie and another man, Billy Johnson. That discovery set off the next chapter of his saga. At first, it looked like something he could handle. He was hit with state charges: possession of a firearm by a felon, concealed carry in a vehicle, possession of ammunition by a prohibited person, and being an unlisted owner of a registered firearm. His lawyer, Megan Blanco, advised he'd likely cut a plea and walk with probation instead of another prison stretch.
At first, it was a state case. Your lawyers came in, the state case was dropped.
The strategy looked solid from a street perspective. Boosie knew from past cases that sometimes the smartest move is to play it cool, take responsibility, and work the system instead of fighting every battle head on. Fans got it too, and many believed this new legal mess would be handled quickly and quietly. Then came the twist nobody saw coming. On June 14, 2023, the state charges were dismissed during a San Diego County Superior Court hearing. For a split second, it looked like Boosie had slipped past another bullet. The relief was heavy. He thought he was in the clear, but that relief vanished in seconds. Right after the dismissal, federal agents swooped in and arrested him outside the courthouse on a federal charge of being a felon in possession of a firearm. Same May 6th incident, different angle. The ATF took over, leaning on federal law that bars felons from holding straps. The shock hit different. His lawyers, Megan Blanco and Damon Ashore, blasted the move as unusual, saying it went against Justice Department policy not to double up on charges for the same offense. They even hinted Boosie's outspokenness on social media and in his music about the justice system might have made him a target for the feds.
They went appeal the Supreme Court ruling, and they won on the Supreme Court ruling. Now it was back again.
The emotional toll showed clear on Boosie's face, and he didn't hide it. He vented his frustration publicly, calling it straight harassment, and even posted an apology to his kids. "I want to take this time to apologize to my kids. I am sorry, and I love you forever." The thought of doing federal time while his 9 children watched from the sidelines was tearing him apart. He pled not guilty to the federal charges but was initially locked down. Then on June 20th, 2023, a magistrate judge gave him bail, first set at $50,000, later raised to $100,000. The conditions let him travel for shows which kept money flowing and fans connected, but the case itself never left his shadow. For over a year, Boosie lived in legal limbo, unsure if the hammer would drop. He kept performing, recording, and trying to look solid in public. But those close to him saw the weight. The fear of decades in federal prison was grinding him down, eating at his peace and his career every single day.
Could have appealed that, but that'll be 2-3 more years, and I'm just wasn't gonna go to trial with it,
Then came what felt like divine intervention. On July 12, 2024, U.S. District Judge Kathy Bensavengo dismissed Boosie's federal firearm charge, citing a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling, United States v. Duarte, which declared that banning nonviolent felons from owning guns violated the Second Amendment. Since Boosie's past convictions were only for nonviolent drug charges, his legal team successfully argued he shouldn't lose his gun rights under this new precedent. The courtroom erupted with emotion. Boosie himself broke down in tears, saying, "This situation made me see who was down with me and who wasn't. God had a different plan." He even posted a victory video floating at San Diego's Sycuan Casino Lazy River, looking like he'd finally closed this painful chapter. For fans who'd watched his battles for decades, it felt like the redemption story was finally complete. But that celebration didn't last long. Less than 2 weeks later, federal prosecutors came back swinging. On July 19th, 2024, U.S. Attorney Tara McGrath's office re-indicted Boosie on 2 counts: possession of a firearm by a felon in interstate commerce and knowingly possessing a firearm while using or addicted to a controlled substance. This time they went further, seeking forfeiture of every firearm and round of ammo tied to the case. If convicted on both charges, Boosie wouldn't just be looking at a setback, he could be facing up to 25 years in federal prison.
I was celebrating, bro.
And we were celebrating too early.
I was celebrating.
The emotional whiplash hit Boosie like a punch to the gut. One moment he was celebrating freedom and vindication, the next he was staring down charges even heavier than before. His posts on social media came out raw and unfiltered, showing the pure anger and frustration of a man convinced the system was working overtime to break him completely.
I got a call on the beach 3 weeks later with my family. Say they just indicted you again. They added a charge, say I was a drug addict.
I think they were trying to use one of my interviews to justify that over something that you were talking about from like 10 years ago.
The new drug-related charge felt extra grimy. Boosie questioned why it wasn't included from the start, blasting the process as a circus and accusing prosecutors of stacking the deck against him. The timing looked cruel, letting him celebrate freedom just to yank it away with even harsher charges, like they wanted to crush his spirit completely. This was the point Boosie Badazz realized the fight wasn't just about him anymore. It was bigger than his lawyers, bigger than any single courtroom win. The feds had made it clear they weren't letting go, no matter what appellate decisions or constitutional rulings came down. The streets might have still been rooting for him, but the government was tightening the screws. By summer 2025, Boosie was battling on every front, against the feds, against his pride, and against the very streets that raised him. The non-stop legal heat was wearing him thin, grinding his spirit, his family, and his money down like stone underwater. For nearly 3 years, the case kept morphing and getting uglier, draining him every step. Every time he thought he'd found a way out, the emotional and financial cost grew heavier. And the man who once swore he'd never fold was starting to face the hardest truth, that sometimes the realest move isn't to fight forever, but to recognize when the game is already stacked and the battle can't be won.
Wasn't gonna go to trial with it, I wasn't gonna go to trial with it from the dump, actually, but I feel like this the right move for me. I trust in God, Vlad.
The decision that flipped everything on its head didn't come from high-powered attorneys or street advisors. It came straight from the people who loved him the most. In emotional conversations that had to cut deep for everyone involved, Boosie's family finally got through to him, making him face what his pride kept him from admitting. Sometimes the most gangster move ain't pushing the fight forever. It's putting family first, protecting what really matters, and living to fight another day.
Stop asking for a pardon. You taking your faith out. You taking your faith out of God. You ask God to put faith in a man.
On August 4th, 2025, Boosie shook the culture when he announced on X that he had taken a plea deal in his federal gun case. The news ripped through hip-hop and his huge fan base. This was the same man who had battled the system for decades, beat a murder charge against impossible odds, and stood on his right to bear arms with unshakable pride. Now it looked like he was throwing in the towel, but for those who truly knew him, this wasn't defeat. It was survival by strategy, a calculated move to keep his freedom and protect what mattered most.
Stop asking a man. Stop asking people. So, you know, I trust in God, man. I mean, my prize I don't have no bad prize. I mean,
his mother's wisdom hit different. And when it came down to this decision, Boosie couldn't ignore her voice guiding him through the storm.
Now, Hatch, known as Boosie to his fans, now awaits sentencing. He's a father of 9 kids. His fiance was with him in court today. So some background on this case.
On August 26, 2025, Boosie stood before a federal judge in San Diego and formally pleaded guilty to 1 count of being a felon in possession of a firearm. The weight in that courtroom was undeniable. His fiance and family were right there, holding him down through what could be one of the hardest moments of his entire life.
So I just want to get it over with, and, you know, accept my guilty plea. I'm ready to get over it.
Anything you want to say to your fans?
Just say a prayer for him. I just need...
The weight of Boosie's decision showed in every word he let slip to reporters outside the courthouse, his voice heavy with the reality of what he was facing.
Just say a prayer for him. I just need prayer. I don't need nothing else. Yeah.
When the media pushed him on what he needed most from his supporters, Boosie's answer came out simple but powerful, showing a rare moment of raw vulnerability that cut through all the noise.
In the plea deal, that they throwing that out. I guess.
They threw that out.
And Hatch currently lives in Atlanta. Now he faces a maximum of 15 years behind bars. His defense attorney did not disclose any parts of the plea agreement or any details about it, but the judge made it very clear today, regardless of what's in that plea agreement, it is the sentencing judge who will have the final say.
The charge carried a max penalty of 15 years, but prosecutors agreed to drop the second firearm count tied to drug use and instead pushed for a 2-year sentence under the plea deal. The agreement also called for 3 years of supervised release after prison, and prosecutors backed off extra financial penalties, admitting Boosie's money wasn't what it once was. Court filings showed how the feds locked jurisdiction. Boosie had bought the Glock and Hellcat in Georgia and flown them into San Diego on a Delta flight the very day he was arrested. That one detail sealed the interstate commerce angle, turning the whole thing into a federal case.
And now it's my job to make sure the court understands the scope of the case and what the case was really about. And more importantly, all of the amazing things that Mr. Hatch has done for the community, continues to do, and the amazing things that he will do going forward.
Beyond the legal talk and plea deals, the real cost of this saga can't be measured in years or money. It's personal. Boosie's attorney, Megan Blanco, stressed that point while sharing cautious optimism about sentencing. She reminded reporters of his community work and charity efforts, saying, "I am optimistic for Mr. and Hatch." He wanted nothing more than to accept responsibility and put this behind him. And now it's my job to make sure the court sees the full picture.
I'm gonna be at every show, of course. I mean,
the timing of Boosie's sentencing throws an extra layer of tragedy on the whole story. His hearing is locked for November 21st, 2025, just days after his birthday. Instead of celebrating, the 43-year-old father of 9 will be standing in court waiting to hear if he'll spend his prime years behind federal bars. Yet despite all the uncertainty, Boosie hasn't slowed down. He's kept grinding, performing, and pushing forward while out on that $100,000 bond.
That ain't how I go in fed court. Once you take a plea, your sentencing ain't till 2-3 months after that, so I'm gonna be...
He reassured his fans while breaking down the long timeline of federal court proceedings, trying to keep them in the loop through every twist.
Crazy alive on top 5.
The resilience Boosie's shown through this whole ordeal is exactly what real street soldiers are built from. Even with years in the pen hanging over his head, he kept performing and dropping music. His album, Words of a Real One, dropped on August 1st, 2025, just days before his guilty plea, proving he stayed locked into his craft even in the darkest times. But not everybody in hip-hop showed love. One of the loudest haters has been Charleston White, the controversial figure who's turned Boosie's legal struggles into his own stage for clout chasing and flat-out disrespect on Iscarpa. White kept taunting, taking shots at Boosie's bold claim of being one of the greatest rappers of all time, twisting it just to stir up more heat.
hope they send you somewhere where they mistreat Boosie.
White's commentary didn't stop there. It kept rolling with a level of cruelty that shocked even people already used to his wild and provocative antics.
So God have to push you where you gonna serve him in jail?
Charleston White went as far as publicly saying he hoped Boosie would die in jail, showing just how personal the beef between them has gotten. But for every hater's voice, there have been countless more standing with Boosie, showing love and understanding for what he's going through. His choice to take the plea deal has even been praised by many in hip-hop as a smart, mature move, one that put his family and long-term survival above ego and street pride.
It's up to the judge to give me credit for my anger monitor. But it's up to God to get to that judge, man. You know, I mean, I'm ready for whatever, Blair. Like, I'm built like this, Blair. Like I told you, if God want me free, gonna keep me free.
The calm acceptance in Boosie's voice during recent interviews shows a man who's made peace with his choice, even while the shadow of an uncertain future still hangs heavy over him.
Don't send my ass to jail. That'd be calm. That's all that be.
Well, I mean, you've done it before. I'm being honest.
Right.
This is not me in front of the camera. I've never seen a gun on the coffee table.
As November 21st, 2025 creeps closer, the entire hip-hop culture is holding its breath, waiting to see the fate of one of its rawest and most resilient voices. All eyes are on U.S. District Judge Kathy Bencivengo, who holds the power to decide if Boosie walks with the recommended 2-year sentence, or if she hits him with something closer to the crushing 15-year max.
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever had a judge who I would say is fair. Our judges always stuck it to me.
Do you think it's because this judge is in California as opposed to Louisiana? Because you've always had Louisiana judges, right?
Yeah.
The hope in Boosie's voice when speaking about Judge Bencivengo shows he truly believes this might be the fair shake he's been chasing his entire legal career. Whether November 21st, 2025 marks the end of Boosie Badazz running free in the streets, or just another wild chapter in his story of survival, remains to be seen. What's certain is that his journey from the Baton Rouge projects to federal courtrooms in San Diego stands as one of the most gripping sagas in hip-hop. A tale of raw talent, street respect, tragedy, and the human will to endure when the odds are stacked sky high. Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter in this unbelievable story.